If your full-size 9mm spends more time in the safe than on your belt, you're already losing the only fight that matters: carry compliance. The pocket pistol revolution is real, and it's happening because today's micro-compact 9mm deliver duty gun features in bodies that actually fit real American life. This list is for everyday Americans who carry for self-defense, keep a pistol staged at home, or are trying to pick one handgun that won't turn into a regret purchase after the honeymoon phase. What's at stake is simple. A gun that's uncomfortable gets left behind, and a gun you don't trust creates hesitation when seconds matter. We're ranking 7 pocket-friendly 9mm, using carry comfort, capacity efficiency, recoil and trigger behavior, optics readiness, reliability signals, and the aftermarket support that keeps your setup running for years. At number 7 sits the Ruger Max 9 from Ruger, and this is the value-brained little pocket blaster that keeps proving the good carry guns have to be expensive myth is cope. It's a 9mm built around the modern checklist, 12+1 capacity, an optic-ready slide that can take common microdots, and a slim 0.95-inch slide width that behaves in real waistband space. The sneaky detail is the length. With a 4-inch barrel and about 6.80 inches overall, it stretches just enough to feel steadier in recoil than the shortest slide micro compacts. Ruger ships it with a 12-round magazine and a 10-round magazine, which is basically 2 carry modes in the box. Keep it short and slick for maximum concealment, or run the taller magazine when you want a grip you can really clamp down on during faster strings. At about 21.2 ounces, it has enough mass to feel less angry in the hands than the featherweight micros, and that means more people actually practice with it, which is the whole point of owning a defensive pistol in the first place. Here's where it gets spicy. The suggested price lives around the mid-$400 range, but the feature set reads like a more expensive gun. The trade-offs are honest. The trigger tends to be more serviceable than magical, and the longer profile means your wardrobe has a vote on how deep it conceals. Still, as the opener of this countdown, the Max 9 sets the tone. The pocket pistol revolution is not just a luxury flex. Now let's move to the pistol that turns predictable into a lifestyle. Sliding into number 6 is the Glock 43X MOS from Glock, and this one is the human version of a reliable Toyota. It is never the most dramatic option in the comments, but it is the option that keeps working while everybody else is arguing online. You're in 9x19 with a 3.41-inch barrel, about 6.50 inches overall, roughly 1.10 inches wide, and light enough that your belt stops hating you. The factory magazine is 10 rounds, and yes, the capacity goblins are already typing. Here is the real reason it earns a spot in this countdown. The ecosystem is the product. Holsters, magazines, sights, small parts, and every weird little how do I set this up problem has already been solved by a million Americans. The MOS cut matters too, because it's Glock admitting that a carry dot is normal now. Practical heads up though, this model does not include adapter plates in the box, and your optic choice can decide what you need to mount it cleanly. That is not a deal breaker, it is just shopping reality. Shootability is where the 43X MOS sneaks up on people. That taller grip compared to the tiniest micros gives your hands more leverage. And for a lot of shooters, it translates to quicker sight recovery and less squirrely behavior when you start pushing speed. The trade-off is the same one it has always been. Factory capacity is conservative, and if your whole mission is maximum rounds per cubic inch, you will look elsewhere. But if your mission is boring reliability and easy support, the Glock 43X MOS is hard to clown on. Now let's talk about the classic slim carry gun that finally got the capacity upgrade people begged for. Holding the number 5 slot is the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield Plus, and this one is the I want a slim carry gun that feels like a real pistol pick. The Shield formula has always been comfort first, and the Plus is what happens when that comfort finally gets modern capacity. You're a 9mm with a 3.1-inch barrel, about 6.1 inches overall, roughly 1.1 inches wide, and around 20.2 ounces. The headline is the magazines, 10+1 with the flush fit, 13+1 with the extended magazine. This is where the list gets interesting, because the Shield Plus is not chasing flash. It's chasing consistency. It carries without drama, and it shoots in a way that feels less twitchy than the featherweight micro crowd. When recoil is calmer, you practice longer, and the gun starts to feel like a tool instead of a dare. That matters for new carriers and for people who actually put rounds downrange. The extended magazine changes the personality. Flush fit is for disappearing under a t-shirt. Extended is for giving your whole hand a home, so you can track the sights and settle faster. The trade-off is simple. Pay attention to the exact configuration you buy if optics are your priority, because not every Shield Plus is born dot-ready. And while support is strong, it is not the same planet-sized ecosystem that Glock enjoys. Still, for the huge chunk of America that wants a dependable, slim, modern 9mm that does not feel like a compromised toy, the Shield Plus lands right in the sweet spot. Now let's talk about the micro compact that turned capacity into a jump scare. Number 4 is where you meet the Springfield Armory Hellcat, from Springfield Armory, and this is where the countdown stops being polite and starts throwing elbows. The Hellcat is a 9mm built around a specific flex, cram real capacity into a micro footprint, and still hide under clothes. With the 3-inch barrel model, you're around 6 inches overall, about 1 inch wide, and roughly 18.3 ounces. Then the magazine math hits. 11 plus 1 with the standard magazine, 13 plus 1 with the extended magazine. This is also where people misuse the phrase outperform full size. Full size still wins the physics contest for softer recoil and longer sight radius. The micro wins the life contest. A pistol that carries comfortably gets carried, and a pistol that stays on you is the one you actually have. The Hellcat leans into that with aggressive grip texture and fast, high-visibility sights, designed for carry speed, not slow-fire selfies. Optics-ready variants exist too, and on a micro gun that can be the difference between fast confirmation and visual hunting. The trade-off is comfort versus traction. That texture can feel amazing on the range, and then you carry it all day in summer, and your skin files a complaint. Recoil is honest too. Light micro 9mm pistols can feel snappy, especially if your grip is inconsistent, and that is why the extended magazine matters. More grip length gives more control, and suddenly the gun feels less like a firecracker and more like a tool. If you want maximum capacity density, without jumping to a thicker compact, the Hellcat belongs in this conversation. And speaking of feel, number 3 goes a different direction, because it chases trigger quality like it owes it money. At number 3, meet the FN Reflex from FN, and this is the one that shows up to the micro compact party wearing a different suit. While most of this category lives in striker-fired land, the Reflex runs an internal hammer with a single action-style trigger feel, and that's the whole point. If you have ever handled a tiny pistol and thought, man, this trigger feels like I'm dragging a couch across carpet, this is the antidote. You're still in 9mm, with a 3.3-inch barrel, about 6.2 inches overall, roughly 1 inch wide, and around 18.4 ounces. Capacity is modular. You can keep it flush for concealment, and you can run a longer magazine that stretches up to 15 rounds for reloads. Here's where it gets interesting. The trigger pull lives around 4.5 to 5.5 pounds, and the break is meant to feel cleaner and more predictable than a lot of micro striker triggers. That matters because a clean trigger is not just a nice-to-have. It is a practice multiplier. When the press is predictable, people stop yanking shots, and they start building confidence. Now the trade-off is the same one newer platforms always face. The FN name is serious, but serious and common are not the same thing. Depending on where you live, you might not see the same wall of holsters and magazines that you get with the category kings. That gap is closing, but it is worth acknowledging. If you want a pocket-friendly 9mm that feels more like a bigger gun on the trigger, the FN Reflex earns its spot. And now we jump into premium territory, because number 2 is a plot twist nobody expected from this brand. In the number 2 position is the Kimber R7 Mako from Kimber, and it feels like a plot twist that actually works. When people hear Kimber, they picture a different era. Then the R7 Mako shows up as a modern polymer 9mm, built for concealed carry. You get a 3.37-inch barrel, about 6.2 inches overall, roughly 1 inch wide, and around 19.5 ounces, which lands in that sweet spot where it carries light, but does not feel flimsy. Magazine options typically give you 11+1 in the flush magazine and 13+1 with the extended. The main reason it's this high is the optics first attitude. A lot of pocket pistols feel like they were designed. Then somebody remembered red dots exist. The R7 Mako feels like the slide and sights were meant to live with modern aiming options from the start. And that matters when you want fast confirmation, without hunting a front sight the size of a rice grain. In real life, that can be the difference between confidence and hesitation. Trade-offs are real. This is not the most universally supported platform, so you might not have the same wall of holsters experience you get with Glock or Sig Sauer. And some owners point out that disassembly has its own personality compared to the pull two tabs and go crowd. None of that makes it bad. It just means you should handle one and make sure it fits your routine. If you want a carry size 9mm that feels modern and intentionally set up for how people actually aim today, the Kimber R7 Mako earns the silver medal. Now for number 1, the pistol that lit this whole fuse. And at number 1 is the Sig Sauer P365 from Sig Sauer. And this is the benchmark that made the pocket pistol revolution unavoidable. Before this family showed up, the category was basically pick 2, small, shootable, or decent capacity. The P365 changed the math. You're still in 9mm, with a 3.1-inch barrel and about 5.8 inches overall, around 1.06 inches wide, and roughly 17.8 ounces unloaded. Yet it carries a 10+1 magazine in a footprint that disappears under a t-shirt. Here's why it wins the number 1 spot in real life. It became a platform, not just a single purchase. When a pocket-sized pistol is your primary defensive gun, you care about the boring stuff. Magazines that are easy to find, holsters that actually fit, parts support, variants that let you tune the grip and sighting setup without starting over. The P365 ecosystem is mature enough that most people can build a setup that fits their body and their budget, and then keep running it for years. Shootability is the second half of the story. A small gun is always going to feel livelier than a full size. That is physics. But the P365 tends to feel controllable enough that people will actually train with it. And that's the real outperform angle. The gun you practice with beats the gun you admire. The trade-offs are honest. Small guns still punish inconsistent grip, and some people simply prefer more grip length for comfort. That is why magazine choice and variant choice matter. But as a pocket-friendly 9mm that delivers modern capability, broad support, and true everyday carry practicality, the Sig Sauer P365 earns the crown. Alright, we've ranked them. Now let's land this plane. If there's a theme running through this whole countdown, it's simple. The pocket pistol label doesn't mean compromise anymore. It means smart packaging. You can carry a 9mm that fits real life, still shoots like a serious defensive gun, and still gives you the modern stuff people actually use. Solid capacity, practical sights, and setups that don't fall apart the moment you start training. Now I want to hear it from you. What matters more in your carry gun? Thickness, trigger feel, recoil control, or optic readiness? And which one are you trusting day to day? Drop it in the comments. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and check out the next video.